Only after what seems to be kind of a few days or so, we are now back live on LinkedIn and obviously through Crowdcast for the next installment of the Talent Waste Show. Now, obviously, my name's Lee McQueen, and I'm the CEO and co-founder of Phoenix 51, and we are on a mission to find out if talent waste exists for research, statistics, and brilliant guests each week on the Talent Waste Show. Now, this week is no exception. We've got a fantastic guest on with us today. Last time out, we had the doctors, of course. We had Dr. Akko and Dr. Nkudum launching Helps, which is an organisation set up to sponsor and promote opportunities and resource to support careers of the ethnic minority professionals, which is an unbelievable cause and very, very big subject that both the doctors are very well versed in. It was a fantastic episode, and you can follow Agbor and John and everything they're doing with Helps via helpsglobal.org. I heard the launch happened on Friday. I heard it went really, really well. So well done, guys. Keep up the fantastic work. You can catch up with all of our shows via Crowdcast, Spotify, and yes, on YouTube as well. We're also at Phoenix 51. You can follow me on the LinkedIn page as well. Check out our website, phoenix51.io. Let's get to why we're here today, because as you can see, I have got just one guest today, which I'm absolutely delighted to have, because I've actually been chasing her for a while now, to be honest. I'm really, really happy that we've managed to get Gemma on. So from supermarket giants Asda through to leadership roles in the illustrious resort of Champneys, and now the HR director or group HR director for the leading provider of care homes in the UK, Prime Life. I'm really excited today to welcome Gemma Beeson. Gemma, welcome to the Talent Waste Show. How are you getting on?
Yeah, I'm good. Finally we get to meet. Yeah, I'm good.
I know. Fantastic. Thanks so much for taking the time to be with us today. And I know that we've got some live interactions. Hopefully we'll get through some questions and that sort of stuff today. But for those of you, for those of the people that haven't met you yet or don't know kind of a little bit about yourself, just explain to us, give us a bit of a flavour of what Gemma Beeson is all about.
What I'm all about. Well, what am I about? First and foremost, I'm a mum of three kiddies. So they keep me extremely busy. And then to have a rest from that, I go to work and try and make a difference and try and enhance the employees' life at work. So, yeah, you know, I suppose to start at the beginning, I've been really fortunate in knowing what I wanted to do from quite an early age. So I always knew I wanted to get into HR. So when I left university and did my degree in HR management, I kind of stepped in literally a week later into the prison service, doing my trainee HR role, and really kind of just grown from there in terms of that, you know, ladder of HR world. So always been a generalist, so been fortunate to have experience in all the facets of HR, and, you know, just worked and had the drive and determination really to hopefully succeed and do as good a job as I've hopefully been able to do in my career.
I always say, Gemma, it's a work in progress, isn't it? No matter how far you get up the ladder, you're still working hard to
completely.
I just want to touch upon that. I mean, it's quite interesting actually for a lot of our viewers and a lot of the listeners as well when we put this out as a podcast as well. Some people won't know what they wanted to do when they were kind of at school or at university. Why was HR such a pull to you? Why did you kind of want to get into HR in the first place? Tell us about that.
I think, well, it kind of really goes back to school and A-levels. I can remember just talking to my form tutor about, what do you think I should do? You know, what do you think I should be good at? And it was my form tutor that just said, I think you'd be really good in HR. And in all honesty, I didn't even know what HR meant, what it meant. I'd never heard of it or anything like that. But even going back to my part-time Saturday job, I used to work for one of the high street retailers. And as a Saturday girl, I used to get involved in the training and mentoring and with that with the newbies. And so, you know, I think I have a certain disposition. I think also a bit nosy, you know, I'm interested in people. So kind of characteristically, you know, I like to know what's going on and, you know, talk to people and help people in that way. And then also, I suppose the flip side of it is I like, you know, getting involved in business as well. So I'm not a mathematician. I was never going to be involved in like accounts, finance, all of that. So for me, it was, a good balance between being able to support a business from a commercial side and drive a business forward, but also, concentrating on actually to do that, you've got to have the right people behind you or, with you to actually achieve what you set out to achieve.
It's really interesting actually, because such a huge influence from a film tutor, from the sixth form or whatever, A levels. That's quite a huge influence on that side. And you mentioned that you're a bit nosy and you like the kind of training, the mentor. And I always call myself a nosy Parker because for having been in recruitment for 21 years, you have to be nosy, you have to be inquisitive, you want to know what's going on. So that's quite interesting. But again, taking out of what you just said there, people are important to you. So you like that kind of the people aspect of developing, training, mentoring, bringing people, together. And that's a huge part of human resources, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. I think, you're only as good as the people around you and that you work with. And ultimately, as a business, it can't be successful unless it's got the right people in place to support each other and set out to achieve what, the business's objectives are and provide a service, whatever service that is that you're wanting to provide. You can't do it without your people. So it's absolutely fundamental in terms of, setting out and achieving goals, whether it be on a personal level. People want to work with good people, though. The majority of people either can stay in roles because of, it's who I work with. I've heard that relentlessly over the years, and I think it's really true. I've probably done the same over the years. I've stayed in roles because I love my team, I love the people I work with. And likewise, that can be the reason why people leave as well. So I think it's absolutely important.
And just talking about this is fascinating to me, because we've very much got quite a lot of kind of values in common in that way, because I think in the same way. So, but just so talking about that, how do we fundamentally make sure that the people that we're bringing into the business are going to be a success, not just from a skills level, but actually from I want to work with Gemma, or Gemma wants to work with Lee. Like there's, you could be brilliant at your job, actually doing the physical job, and so could I, but we might not, click or get on or be part of that team. How do you, in your career so far, how have you seen in different environments? Obviously, you've worked in the travel industry, you've worked in kind of the supermarket industry, obviously Champneys as well, and now you're in health and social care. How is that different, or isn't it? Is it the same? Is it bringing people together? Like, how do you do that?
I think it's about, being transparent, by reading people, by identifying what it is that I consider, what are people's non-negotiables, what are they looking for. Everybody's got different priorities of what they want out of a role. It might be logistical reasons, but I want to work here because it's down the road. I want to work here actually because I want to start my career. I want to work here because I'm really passionate about whatever it is that the business provides. But I think how to manage that, and what I try and support the business and our managers in looking at, is that everyone has different needs. So it isn't necessarily a case of treat everyone the same. It's actually listening and understanding what that individual needs, and starting what I call kind of the onboarding journey, that candidate journey from the get-go. So right from the advert, right from wherever you're sourcing, and start that relationship as early as possible to try and build up a picture of actually, what do they want out of it, is equal to what actually we need out of that, skills, talent to deliver what we need them to deliver.
Totally agree. I mean, literally completely agree. And I think it's so, I don't know, put words into your mouth. I mean, sometimes I feel that part is overlooked. Like that's where you've created your success in all of the businesses that you've led from a HR perspective. But actually that's, how many times have you walked into a business or that aren't doing that? Or how many times have you interacted with people that come from businesses that say that's non-existent, that people, that culture, if you like, because actually there's some statistics that are quite damning, but it's 87% of permanent hires are successful because of values and culture, not because of skill. And that's quite mad, isn't it? Considering we're hiring people on a skills basis to do a job, but actually they succeed because of the culture, the values, and the environment.
Yeah, and also, some people, and over the years you speak to people and think, oh, I'm moving because I want more money or I'm not being paid enough. And actually, when you break it down, and when I've been in training workshops myself or spoken to people, you break it down, it isn't actually always just about the money. It is about the environment, the opportunity, the culture surrounding where that person's going to be. I've had many experience where we've not got it right. I've had many experience where we have got it right. And I think sometimes for me, it's, what I speak to managers and hiring managers about is try not to get complacent. So, somebody may have been in a role for a significant period of time and it's very natural to them. They're doing it day in, day out, day in, day out. And then somebody new comes in. They've got to really understand that it is new to them and that they can't kind of get too complacent in terms of where they're at, because otherwise they will miss an opportunity to give somebody a really good start, and, I don't like the phrase bum on a seat, but there are times when, it's a case of managers can be chasing tails, they've got vacancies and it's like, we just need people in. And it's almost trying to ensure that they keep the human element in that part of the onboarding process. These are people, they've got lives, they've got aspirations, and they're not, just an additional resource to quickly get in, because they won't stay. If that's how they feel.
Exactly. That is very interesting. There's so many different sectors that do have that kind of bums on seats, obviously, we don't know that term, but they have that mentality because they have to scale up very quickly to either, appease shareholders or to hit corporate targets or whatever it might be. The reason why they have to scale up. Obviously, now you're in a sector which is health and social care, and it's a huge. Not that I'm saying that some sectors haven't got real importance on their staff, of course, but this is of huge importance. You're talking about people's lives. You're talking about health and well-being and social, elderly people, disabled people, people that aren't ably bodied, to support them and to try and get the staff into this type of environment. That's a challenge in itself, isn't it?
Yeah, it is, absolutely. I mean, I was having a look. Apparently, there's 430,000 care workers that leave their job every year. And, there can be at any one time around 112,000 vacancies in the industry. It's a challenging time. And of course, at the minute, it's even more so. But, I think what's really important, and what I've learned from taking the shift from hospitality into care, is that these positions, they're more than that. They're a vocation. People come into our sector because they do have a fundamental essence that they care and they want to make a difference to somebody's life. That ultimately, the majority of our clients, they are vulnerable. So they need that support, they need that care. And so, we want people, we try and seek people that have that genuine desire to care for others.
I mean, again, so weird. I'd had written on I'm scribbling some notes down and stuff like that as we're chatting, and I actually wrote down the word vocation before you actually said it. We did a huge project with a private healthcare business a couple of months ago, whereby we did the largest nursing apprenticeship scheme in the UK that's ever seen. There's just under 200 apprenticeship nurses that were hired in less than 10 weeks. And the amount of people that we had a team of recruiters, talking and interviewing and screening all these candidates, and vocation, care, empathy was absolutely critical. The 6 C's, as it's known in the industry and sectors, you'll know, absolutely critical. And these are values, these are behaviours, essentially. So, if you can come out with, that empathy and empathise and really care about your individual and that patient or the person that you've got in your care, they're the types of individuals that you're looking for. And that's a very different recruitment process, isn't it? To, getting people either in a call centre or bums on seats or just contractors coming in to do stuff, right?
It's not kind of a hire where, a logistical hire, right? Can you, move A to B and this, that and the other. it is very much about those non-tangible skills and competencies that's really hard from a hiring point of view to identify in your classic, you know, interviews, to kind of establish or identify, does somebody have empathy? Does somebody, you know, have a genuine, you know, care within them that they want to make a difference? So, you know, we try our utmost to kind of bring about scenarios for them to answer. But ultimately, until, you know, those people step foot that first day of shadowing, that first day of work, their induction, you know, nothing really can prepare you if it's somebody new coming into the industry as well. Yeah, you know, so it really is a challenge for them. But, you know, we're really fortunate within Prime Life that we have got, you know, amazing employees that genuinely do care. You know, they've been through an absolutely challenging time and still continue to go through it the last 18, 19 months. You know, nothing's changed for us in terms of the COVID impact. We're still continuing with the same measures. And it's been really challenging. So, you know, we've done really well in retaining those staff as well. And the reason for that is because they actually genuinely care. You know, people have been without their relatives, not been able to have visitors. And that takes a certain kind of someone, you know, from a staff point of view, is that's amazing. And they've done an amazing job. So
what's really interesting about that is, you know, you just highlighted it there. You can't just get from a normal kind of interview or CV process. And I'm going to get on my soapbox a little bit. I'm not going to lie, but you can't, you know, for this sector, you can't just look at somebody's CV, have an interview with them and decide whether or not they're going to be good enough for the job. Yes, skills based, but absolutely it is about empathy. It is about care. It is about showing. And therefore them assessments, dare I say it, of course, you know, I'm pro assessment, but assessing people to coming in, you mentioned about that scenario based or role play type based. You know, we've had a huge amount of success in actually trying to watch and observe and see and put people through, you know, a kind of almost like a simulator of how you can never, you know, it will never be the same. You know, I always use sports analogies in this environment. So, you know, you can never replicate a penalty shootout in a World Cup final, right? You can never do that on the training ground, but you can see how somebody's going to react or how, you know, try and prepare them. And actually putting people through assessment or, you know, scenario based interviewing, surely for these types of roles would be a positive step.
Yeah, and for us, you know, we've got 60 homes all across the UK, and we offer a wide range of services, you know, which is quite unique for a healthcare provider. So we don't concentrate on just one. You know, we've got elderly, we've got young mental health, we've got people that come in for respite, dementia specialism. And so from a recruitment point of view, we have a central recruitment team, but also kind of within the homes, is we want the candidate to understand what home they're either applying for or potentially going to work in. So with the impact of COVID and not being able to have visitors and stuff, we've really had to kind of think outside the box in terms of trying to prepare somebody for what that home is going to be like. Because we've had to restrict tours and we've not been able to say, oh, just come in and have a look around. So we've done things like, you know, we've gone out and done virtual tour videos, you know, which we're going to be sharing with candidates and, you know, creating brochures even for the individual homes, because, you know, people might think, oh, I'm applying for a care worker role for Prime Life, but that could be in very, you know, there's multiple homes that could be in. And you know, so what we want to avoid is people walking in and saying, this wasn't what I expected. So the key thing is for us to try and prepare them as much as possible in terms of what it's going to be like. It's not all cups of tea and biscuits, you know, of sitting there and what have you.
It's hard.
It is challenging. It's hard work. It's long hours. You know, they'll have sight of some difficult situations, and so it really does take a certain someone. It really does, and that's special someone, really.
No, and it's interesting as well because, and obviously so, but you know, your sector's so highly regulated.
Yeah,
there's certain things that even at a certain level, you can and cannot do. So even though you might know, I don't know, you might have been with your patient as a assistant care worker for 3 years and know absolutely everything, everything about the condition, but unless you're at a certain level or a certain band, you can't do certain things with that patient. And that becomes quite difficult, because when there is a trouble, for example, I don't know, maybe the patient gets into difficulty, deep down that you can fix it, but you're not allowed to. You have to wait and call, and that procedures as well. So it is quite a it needs to be a well balanced process to actually get these people into the business, into the business in the first place. But actually, as well, and touched upon it earlier, bringing new talent into the business. I mean, you're brilliant at what you do, and you haven't worked in social care before. Yeah. Now you are. So you're, in our class, you was kind of new coming into that sector, right?
Yeah.
So how do we encourage people to come into the health and social care sectors where, coming from hospitality, for example, hospitality's taken a battering over the last 18 months. So it might be an opportunity to kind of cross-train. But how do we get people coming, making the industry, I suppose, more, I don't know the word I'm looking for, really, more attractive, more sexy, really?
Yeah, I mean, look, the reality of it is when I worked for Champneys in hospitality, that there was never really a challenge in terms of that brand identity. It's luxury brand, and so from that point of view, it's been quite a shift, because again, the reality of it is it's people may not aspire to go and work in care. It is a vocation, it really is a vocation. So where I'm coming from in terms of fresh pair of eyes in the industry, still learning, there's a lot to learn for myself, is what kind of other talent pools can we look at that maybe, have that natural disposition or that empathy. One of the things that, I'm looking at and want to look more at, and I've done this throughout my career, is look at that talent pool that potentially are kind of underrepresented, so whether it people that, have had a challenging life or come out of the care system or what have you, or homeless. I've worked with charities over the years that kind of need a break, but actually they have some really fantastic qualities that can offer employment. So that's one of the things that, I'm exploring in terms of hope, going forward and finding and looking at new talent pools. I think the other side of it for me is, the media, what you hear about care and, the horror stories over the years in terms of, what's happened. That very, very, very rare. That is very rare.
But they're the ones that we hear about. That's the thing, isn't it? The Daily Mail test or whatever it might be. Do you know what I mean? It comes out and and you've got a documentary or something, and it's a one-off situation, but all of a sudden that means that all care homes are kind of tarnished with that same brush.
Exactly. They're chastised for that kind of one story, and so that's for me about really kind of promoting our company, promoting what we do, getting ourselves out there more. One of the things we're doing is really kind of re-engaging and building more networks within our local communities, local colleges, local universities, to look at the younger generation, in terms of really trying to showcase a role, a career in care is extremely rewarding. Exactly. So they're the sorts of things for me that I feel that, I'm trying to get rid of that preconception. I'm trying to educate. I'm trying to use the tools that we've got, network with our local communities, really.
Yeah, no, for sure. And Gavin says there, like on the comments, agree. We're looking at multiple options to support digital innovation in healthcare. Given the times, it's a really interesting topic, and I suppose that does bring me on to kind of that digital innovation, or kind of what are you using at Prime Life or previously in your other workplaces around digital. I mean, are you still looking at bringing people into the organisation, onboarding, as you mentioned earlier, into the organisation and identifying them kind of core values manually? I mean, how's that working? Are you kind of like an innovation on the tech side of things? Like, talk to us a little about your technology side.
Oh, technology. Well, I have to be honest, we're not necessarily at the forefront of technology, and I just think that by virtue of the industry that we're in, the majority of our workers have come into it because they're not necessarily, desk people or you know, their skill set or their you know, kind of more artistic and you know, they're visual learners and things like that. So you also have to consider that when you're looking at technology. You know, what are your demographics? You know, the majority of our employees don't use computers and PCs, but we have and we are you know, utilizing and implementing new technologies. We've just implemented a new technology system for us to give our medicines, which before was very manual. So that's now on a central system, and you know, people can see what's going on, and that's been really, really great and reducing time, but also enhancing people's care as well. So that's been a great thing. From a recruitment point of view, we're investing more than we've ever done in terms of technology. So again, just looking at our own internal systems to streamline our processes. You know, it wasn't that long ago within the company that they were doing a lot of manual things. We've now invested in things like automatic systems so we can generate contracts, do DBSs online and everything can be done from somebody's mobile phone. So ultimately, when we make that offer, they've not got to fill in an abundant amount of forms with pen and paper. They can literally just log onto their mobile, review everything and sign. So we are investing in it. There's still a long way to go, but I think that's just kind of also the nature of the industry that we're in. But you know, I like technology. I think it can be absolutely great. You know, so I'm all for being open to kind of moving forward with technology.
For sure. Now, I know obviously we've spoken a huge amount, and rightly so, about health and social care.
Yeah.
But actually, I just want to touch upon kind of hospitality a little bit as well. The interest, that's a sector that, like we mentioned, got battered in the last 18 months or so. Champneys, I'll be honest with you, you know, I have been a few times, so I'm not gonna, lie about that. It's been, and it is a luxury brand. I do love it. So what was
amazing.
Like? What was it like, Gemma, going from, you know, a Champneys luxury brand on that side of things to the, you know, the health and social care sector, but actually at a time where that had taken a huge amount. I mean, we were talking in the green room before, wasn't we? Is it, you know, for you, it was about learning, coming outside your comfort zone and going again and learning something different. But actually, how different are the two sectors when you're looking at kind of values and behaviours and kind of hiring process?
Yeah, I think, you know, it was a huge change. You know, throughout my career, I've never worked in the same sector twice. There's been a couple of similarities, but, you know, one thing I love about HR is, you know, fundamentally, you know, people are people, processes, practices, employment law, you know, they remain the same. And that's why I love that kind of transferable skill set. But in terms of like the service you're offering, massive change. You know, the customer is completely different and got different needs. You know, I had a fantastic time at Champneys, you know, loved my time there, and, you know, personal point of view, you know, felt I achieved a lot. And of course it was challenging when COVID hit, and, you know, we furloughed the majority of the workforce and closed the doors for the first time. It was really kind of challenging. But yeah, it was time for me in terms of, right, you know, from a personal point of view, I need a new challenge now. So adapting to it, I think the biggest challenge was kind of the regulatory side of things. I have worked in regulatory businesses before when I worked in the prison service many moons ago, but it's changed a lot since I started out. So whereas, you know, with Champneys, we could act really quickly. We could make decisions and kind of implement and embed them really quickly. You know, our hiring process could be as short as we wanted it to be, so to speak.
Really agile, so you could
change. Really agile.
Yeah,
I mean, you know, I can remember once when, you know, I just said, you know what, there's a talent pool over in Greece. Let's just sort a project out, and we're over in Greece, like, you know, a week or two later. So, you know, you could really do things at speed and kind of get people onboarded.
Yeah.
Within the healthcare sector, it has been a challenge in terms of we have to be compliant. You know, fundamentally, we have a duty of care to safeguard our residents, and therefore, you know, it's imperative that we make sure we do the necessary checks, and that takes time. So when you have vacancies, for example, or someone's leaving, one of the main challenges is you've got someone leaving on a notice period, but actually onboarding them just by virtue of all the regulatory checks is generally going to go over that person that's leaving notice period. So that's a challenge. That is a challenge.
And does that maybe not necessarily at Prime Life, I'm sure, but do you think that has an impact on the industry? Because at Champneys, you could actually go, right, let's pivot, go to Greece, go to somewhere else, just do something different quickly, or change, or have a wider talent pool, because ultimately you can pivot. Whereas actually at Prime Life, your talent pool is actually shrinking, because if they're not regular, if they can't pass the checks, it does become a bit more of a, right, this person's got all the right things to work in our industry. They might not have the key values, what we would like, but they've got all the things. So actually, should we employ them? Do you think that happens in the industry? Because of, it's not necessarily bums on seats, but actually it's kind of the reverse of that, whereby they've got all of the tick boxes, if you like, in terms of regulation, but they might not have the core behaviours or values, but yet they still get hired. Do you think that's where some problems happen?
I think, potentially. I think sometimes, it can be a case of, in order to support the existing staff that may be picking up additional shifts and that potentially are tiring out, it's trying to pacify that. So, I'm sure there definitely has been an occasion when we've not hired the right people, or we've hired them for the wrong reasons. And one of the things I'm trying to do and work with the managers is, and we're already seeing an improvement, is actually that's a short-term fix that ultimately will create more work, more cost, but is not going to help anyone, even the existing staff. If the existing staff see kind of a turntable, an influx of stuff coming in, and then maybe it's not been the right hire and they leave, what is that message to our existing staff? So we've been working really, really hard on that candidate journey, transition it to the onboarding from candidate to employee, and really trying to make that as engaging as possible. We've introduced things like pool surveys, from the candidate journey when they start to in the hope to kind of nip in the bud those little things that we could hopefully easily resolve. Sometimes our managers with the shift patterns might not be available, 24/7 for them because of the way the shift pattern falls. So we're trying to look and explore ways, of how we can potentially ensure that person's journey into our company is as positive as it can be, but that they feel supported, that they feel that someone's there. So like having a buddy in the absence of a manager or, supervisor, for example.
Yeah, that makes sense. And that kind of employee value proposition piece is really, really important, isn't it? When we're hiring them, because you're actively hiring now, aren't you, Gemma? So you've got some wide range of vacancies, haven't you, across the group? So that part is really important, but also making sure that we're getting the right people in through the doors as well.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we have got vacancies. We've got 60 homes across the UK. We've got vacancies for care workers, nurses. We've even got vacancies in our head office for recruitment administrators as well, to support us with recruiting the best talent that we can. I think for me it's about showcasing that reward as well from the work that they're doing. We're quite proud that in terms of monetary, we have annual pay reviews. We're above the living wage. We've been able to do that this year. But I also think, to break it down, whilst we can all think what big gestures we can do and what big campaigns we can do, one of the things that I think is equally important is looking at that local market and breaking it down in terms of what's going on in that local area. What can we do? I go back to one size doesn't fit all. So we've also adapting to that. And I think as well, it's sometimes saying thank you for someone's work, so it's those kind of small things can actually make a big difference, about people just feeling appreciated and feeling like you know, I'm valued and what I've done today actually means something. And that's where I go back to that complacency side. I don't want any of us to get complacent. Let's go back to basics sometimes.
No, I agree. I was going to say that it comes back also down to that vocation piece as well, because actually, if you're finding the right people that actually believe that it is a vocation to do what they're doing, that they will be looking for that kind of, you know, that empathy of them doing a good enough job as well. And like you say, just sometimes just saying thank you or patting somebody on the back, or, you know, the basic things it makes a huge difference. And I think that's probably a top tip from you from a leader perspective, is that actually just by sometimes saying thank you to the members of your team goes a really long way in doing that. As a leader in your field, Gemma, what would you say is the best piece of advice that you would give other leaders in your field? What have you learned over your career so far that you would go, it is a must that we do this or we do that?
I think one thing I've learned is that, you know, you've got to be able to listen to people. And, you know, I can be the leader of my team and one of the leaders in the business, but, you know, it's a collaborative approach. So it's really important that we listen. So one of the things I've wanted myself, my team to do is listen to our managers, listen to what their needs are. You know, that going back to that one candidate, that one size fits all isn't the case. I can remember going to 2 sites that were probably half an hour away from each other. And actually what the biggest thing I got out of it was I could have had one candidate that maybe lived in the middle, but, you know, I wouldn't necessarily send them to one over the other because they're culture, you know, completely different atmospheres. So I would say we need to listen, we need to understand the business. So I think that's really important. I think another thing is that, you know, I'm not adverse to taking risks. So I'm very open to let's give it a go. So I'm not afraid of something not working. So, you know, I always think if we can't complain or kind of get frustrated about something, but expect a different outcome if we're not prepared to actually change how we do something or try new things. So for me, you know.
No, I love it because just to interact with you there, I mean, I couldn't agree more with you on that point. You know, it's not taking averse risk or being averse to taking a risk. It's about saying, actually, if we don't try something new, we're always going to get the same result. You know, the definition of being insane is keep doing the same thing and expect a different result. It will always be the same, right? So that risk taking element, I love that.
Yeah, exactly. So, you know, I think that is really important. But, you know, go back to, I'm still learning. You know, I'm learning off my team. I'm learning off from the operational side of things. One of the things I really want to do, I haven't got around to doing yet, is I want to go and spend a day on the shop floor, you know, when I can and it's safe to do so. I think that's really important to do. You know, I did that at Champneys, you know, and I think that is really important. And I, you know, promote that to my team about getting out on site. And, you know, thankfully with restrictions having lifted, you know, I am able at the moment to get out on site more. I need to do it more. But that's one of the things that I really want to do as well. I think you need to have that understanding, don't you, of what the reality is for somebody.
Definitely. And I think, again, that brings you back to kind of that local element of understanding what's actually going on, so you can start to relate and pull that back and so on and so forth as well. And I completely agree. Look, I mean, I could talk to you for a long time. I'll be brutally honest with you, but unfortunately, you're going to probably cut me off in a minute because I've been rabbiting on too long. You know, I suppose just to summarise, you've had an illustrious career so far. I mean, some fantastic brands that you've worked with and businesses that you work with. You're now doing an amazing job at Prime Life. You've obviously got lots of different vacancies on. People can catch up with you on LinkedIn. So just look Gemma Beeson up on LinkedIn and get involved and get following and and get interactive. But I suppose, in summary, from your perspective, if there was kind of one or two key things that you would say, you know, to your peers and to the colleagues, what would that be? What would your message be so far? As you know, I'm looking at taking things, being bold, getting feedback, communications, that type of stuff. But how would you summarise your career so far, Gemma?
How would I summarise my career? That is a really big question, Lee. How would I summarise?
right at the end.
I don't necessarily think I'm at the end of it. Summarise it.
No. Okay, so far, your career so far.
Yeah, no, look, it's been a challenging one, but I do thrive on challenges. That is why I like HR. I always say, even some of my adverts, for any of you that have seen, I'll always, when I'm advertising for my team, I'll always stress that, no 2 hours are the same, let alone 2 days. And I really like that. For me as an individual, I'd be really awful at something that's just monotonous and the same thing. So for me, that's been fundamental in terms of, my career choice and kind of the journey that I've been on. But, back to basics, I really want people to have the best experience they can do in the job that they do. We spend the majority of our time at work with the people around us, away from our friends and family. So for me, it's really important that we try and get the best out of it as we can. It's not all roses. I'll often, when I'm interviewing, I'll often say, these are the challenges that we are facing. This is the reality of it, because it is, a challenge in what we do, difficult conversations, difficult times, and therefore it's important to be transparent about that. But the rewards, for me, in terms of a career-wise, I'm really proud of what I've personally achieved, and I couldn't have done it without the colleagues over the years and that support. But I'm hopefully will continue to carry on and make a difference.
There is no doubt you will. There is no doubt you will. Gemma Beeson, you've been absolutely fantastic. This has been another episode of the Talent Waste Show. And although we didn't really touch upon lots of talent waste, we talked about some fantastic things. It isn't just about the money. It's about the culture. It's about the values. People want to work with good people, looking at local talent pools, how we can get more locals into the business and understand them types of the challenges that we've got coming back in, and communications, listening to our managers, getting the feedback, understanding the business to build out them solutions. Don't be afraid to take risks. I love that. To actually come outside your comfort zone, not only as an individual, but as a business, as a team, as a HR team, as a recruitment team as well. Come outside your comfort zone, do something different, do something innovative. Look at technology. If you can enhance, then let's have a go. Let's give it a go, and make sure that, most importantly, that we're delivering back to our patients. Patient care is the most important thing, that the number one piece. Gemma Beeson, you've been absolutely fantastic. Thank you so much for coming on and spending the time with us. And viewers and listeners, you can get in touch with Gemma via LinkedIn, and you can catch up with all of our different formats of the show via social media, as you know. And best of luck, Gemma. And we'll catch up with you next time.
Yeah, brilliant. Thank you. Thanks a lot for having me. Take care. Bye. Bye.